Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. At Part 3 Advaitam, Shankara Sampradayam, Shankara's tradition. The followers of Adi Shankara Bhagavad Padal's principle of Advaitam are called the Smarthas. Many of the young and old of these Smarthas themselves do not know this. They call themselves Iyer as though Iyer is the name of a caste or sect. Vaishnavas are followers of Ramanujacharya's principle of Visishtadvaitam and are called Iyengars. This is also a word like Iyer or Sir or Arya and not a name of caste or creed. Dvaitams add a surname as Rao or Achar. Since they follow Madhavacharya, we call them Madhavas. Both Visishtadvaitams and Dvaitins are devotees of Vishnu and so are Vaishnavas. But their beliefs of Dvaitam and Visishtadvaitam differ remarkably. As Madhavas and add a suffix achar to their names, Visishtadvaitins add a suffix acharyar or Iyengar. They have names such as Rajagopala Iyengar and Rajagopala Acharyar. A point to note is that while Madhava's followers are collectively addressed as Madhavas, a name deriving from the name of their guru, the followers of Shankara and Ramanuja do not have a name deriving out of their guru's name. In some English book of philosophy or lecture, the word Shankara Advaitikan may get a mention, but not in the normal usage. Nowadays, what we have is Rao for Dvaitins, Iyengar for Visishtadvaitins, and Iyer for Advaitins. Generally, the Smarthas have a family name such as Sharmas, Shastris, and Dikshadars. Those who have taken Diksha so as to maintain or observe some vow of abstinence for a period for conducting some yagnas are given the name of Dikshadar and it becomes his name and subsequently a family name. Chidambaram Dikshadars are a different case altogether. In general, Advaitins are thought to be Iyers. The present generation, however, does not believe in having any such affix or suffix, though it is not a caste name but a declaration of one's belief and trust in a guru whom we follow. The tendency is to avoid all such surnames, thinking them to be caste names, which have become unmentionables. But in reality, there is no Sharma or Shastri or Acharya or Rao caste. As the followers of Shankara do not know that they are Smarthas, there is another important truth that they are not aware that Shankara as the Guru did not pinpoint any one god as their specific deity, but asked them to consider all gods as equal, not just equal, but as different forms of one and the same god. Many Advaitins do not know this and so, thinking Paramashivan as their special Upasana Murti, call themselves as Shaivas. For such thinking, there is one more reason. Dvaitins and Visishtadvaitins are both Vishnu Bhaktas. So, Smarthas thinking themselves to be different from those two, assume that they are Shiva Bhaktas and so are Shaivas. This is a misconception. Iyer, Iyengar and Rao are not Sanskrit names. So, when they have to declare their names in Sanskrit, both Dvaitins and Visishtadvaitins call themselves as Vaishnavas. So, Iyers think that as they are not Vaishnavas, they must be Shaivas or followers of Shiva. This misunderstanding is widely prevalent in the entire society. There is nothing wrong in both Visishtadvaitins and Dvaitins claiming to be Vaishnavas, but there is everything wrong in Advaitins claiming to be Shaivas. Many people are of the wrong notion that he is a Shaiva Acharya. There was one professor, Hajime Nakamura from Japan. He asked me a question. I have read Acharyal's Brahma Sutra Bhashyam and Gita Bhashyam and his commentaries on the Upanishads. In all of them, there is only the philosophy of Advaitam and no mention of Shiva. But why do you seem to be a Shaiva? I countered with another question. Why do you think I am a Shaiva? His reply was, you are wearing such signs. You are smeared with 3 lines of vibhuti in your hands and forehead. You do Shiva Puja, Chandramaulishwara Puja. All Shankaracharyas in the other matams such as Sringeri, Dwaraka and Jyotish Mat are like this only. When Adi Shankara propounded the theory of Advaita, he did not differentiate between Shiva and Vishnu. Why are you spotting signs of being a Shaiva, Shiva Bhakta and doing Shiva Puja? I gave him a suitable reply. We have to go back to some of the historical facts to understand the situation correctly. What was the condition prevailing when Adi Shankara was born? Vedika religion of Sanatana Dharma and 72 other religions of odds and sorts were there, as gleaned from books Shankara Vijayam. Buddhism was the main one among them, totally contrary to the Vedika Sanatana Dharma. Other religions had much lesser following. As obtaining now, those days too, the smaller ones had more ardent following. All the people belonging to Sanatana Dharma were known as Smartas, which means believers of Smriti. Smriti is the common name for Dharma Shastras. Whatever is said in the Vedas, the portions which deal with human and social responsibilities, duties, and rights were given in the form of compilations. Some not so clearly given points too were elaborated without deviating from the letter and spirit of the Vedas in the Dharma Shastras. From the time a life form is installed in the womb of a mother, its birth, growth, vidyabhyasham, its marriage, extension of the family into the next generation, its death and cremation are all covered by so many rules of do's and don'ts and ceremonies and functions with elaborate mantras and procedures. Then there are the binding principles of brahmacharyam or bachelorhood and householdership. Then there are the rules and regulations binding on various public functionaries in the society. These are what are known as smritis and its followers are smartas. What is nowadays called Hindu or followers of Veda were originally known by this name of smartas. Dharma Shastras do not restrict or enjoin devotion to a particular god. Whatever god or deity is mentioned in Vedas are all of equal importance. You can have more devotion for one, but it is best to have the clarity that they are all one and the same. Adityam, Ambikam, Vishnum, Jnanantam, Maheshwaram are the 5 divinities prayed to in Panchayatana Puja by the Smartas. You could have some special attachment for one. In one house, the elder brother could be a devotee of Shiva and the younger brother could be devoted out to Krishna or Rama. They did not have to separate as Vaishnavas and Shaivas for this reason. Shiva and Vishnu Upasakas did have mutual ties of marriage. Vedam was common. The karma anushtanams as enjoined by the Vedas were common to all. Vedas require all followers to do yajna karma, anushtanam, and wear the bhasma or ashes. Dharma Shastras also say so. So all the smartas wore the ashes, including those who had Vishnu as their Ishtadevata. Even now, when Vaishnavas and Madhavas do yaga, they are required to wear the bhasma on their forehead. To apply the namam with or without the padam are all subsequent additions by the Vaishnava acharyas. This is clear from the various Guru Parampara stories prevalent even now. Later, when only Vishnu was identified as the main god and followers of Vishnu were recognized or wanted to be recognized as separate caste or religion, those followers had to be given separate identities. That is how Madhavas had to have Gopi Chandan and Sandhu when they went their own way from among the Vaishnavites. Those who did not go away into these sampradayas and remained loyal to the teachings of Adi Shankara remained to be smartas. The old custom of bhasmodharanam, as required by the Vedas, continued to be practiced by the smartas. Actually, in Vedas, there is a mantra for making a paste of the ashes with water and its application on the body of the person. So, though there is the wrong notion that wearing of vibhuti or ashes is an indication of being a Shaiva, this is rather a practice as required in Vedas. Smartas believe in Shiva as much as any other god. Before Sri Ramanujacharya established Visishtadvaitam as a separate sampradaya, both Vishnu and Shiva devotees wore bhasma with equal felicity. Sannyasi has no requirement to conduct yagas or yagyas, but they too would wear the vibhuti. Even now, Vaishnavas have to wear homa bhasma in Pancharatra Diksha. In Pancharatra Diksha, Buddha objected and discarded the Vedic customs and traditions, including yagas. He also did not talk about God. So, in Buddhism, there is no bhakti and no rituals of karma anushtanas. This had an effect on the smartas too. They did a lot of karma anushtana. Their analysis went on the following lines possibly. Buddhism does not recognize the presence of any god. Why should we bother about this god either? After all, he seems to be rather undefinable and nebulous. We have our karmas as delineated by the Vedas. That is good enough for us. These set of people were called Purva Mimamsakar. They neither had any time for bhakti nor did they aspire towards jnana. They had only karmas. To think of God, to do dhyana and meditation, to do atma vichara, etc., were anathema to Purva Mimamsakars. Among them, one Kumarla Bhattar came as a great proponent of their philosophy, who roundly criticized, disputed, and countered Buddhism on the grounds of ignoring karmas. In the first volume of Deivathin Kural, there is detailed description about the meeting of Kumarla Bhatta and Adi Shankara. Another great philosopher, Udayana Acharya, criticized the Buddhism for not mentioning about God and not giving any room or scope for devotion. He was an expert in the art of debate as part of Nyaya Shastra. He proved that there has to be the presence of a God, if only for the orderly conduct of world affairs, if not for any historic reasons. Today in school textbooks, Buddha gets wide coverage, but there is no mention of Kumarla Bhatta or Udayana Acharya. This is due to the fact that during the time that Britishers were in power in this country, they have intentionally suppressed some facts and given more publicity to some truths selectively to manipulate the public mind. Their intention was to somehow denigrate the Hindu religion and pull everyone towards Christianity. Even if they fail in their effort to convert the Indians to Christianity, it was acceptable. But what was not acceptable was the supremacy of Indian culture and religion. Centuries or even thousands of years before the time when England was not yet out of their stone age. After all, India was one of the countries ruled over by them. They wanted to the high sophistication of Vedic cultural background to remain unknown not only to the rest of the world but also to Indians themselves. So, what Buddha did against the Vedic way of life was given wider coverage from primary and elementary schools onwards, while all of the original great thinkers of Hinduism were given the convenient go by. Kumarla Bhattar contradicted Buddhists and the convertees by re-establishing the primordial importance of karma as delineated by Vedas. Udayanar chided and derided the non-godly attitude of Buddhism. Thus, these two had to a large extent re-established karma and bhakti in the minds of the mass of the country. Now, Shiva Avatara, Sri Adi Shankara, came on the national scene to revive and refurbish the Hinduism and recreate interest in karma, bhakti, jnana in that order. Visishtadvaitins and Dvaitins object to both Buddhism and Advaitam on the grounds that Advaitins and Buddhists are sailing in the same boat in their preoccupation with jnana. They called or nicknamed Adi Shankara as pra- Prachana Bauddhar, meaning pseudo Buddhist. But this viewpoint is totally wrong, since Buddhists and Advaitins call the world Maya, and at the highest level of awareness, jnana, devotion, bhakti, comes to a standstill, it will seem that there is some substance in calling Adi Shankara a pseudo Buddhist. But even a cursory analysis will reveal this criticism to be utterly baseless. When he called the Jagat, Vishwam, that is world or universe, as Maya, Adi Shankara did not declare it as Shunyam as Buddhists did, but declared it as a temporary reality, not to be thought of as a permanent truth. This Maya world does not melt away into nothingness. Instead, the world's transitoriness is what is to be understood. When you get that understanding, our own impermanence will become apparent, and our permanency lies in our identifying ourselves with the everlasting eternity of Brahman or Atma. Buddhists is the state of Advaitam or oneness of the highest reality of truth, being an awareness beyond dispute, beyond compare, Sat Chit Anandam. To say that the Buddhist Nirvana and Adi Shankara's Advaitam is one and the same is indicative of total lack of understanding. What is the greatness of Adi Shankara? He accepted all other Siddhantas at various levels of understanding as being true relatively. They all individually and collectively take us, the sadhakas, to the end point of understanding of awareness, that is jnana. Buddhists are those who turned away from the Vedas and karma marga. Adi Shankara, on the other hand, was a staunch advocate of Veda and observance of karma. His Upadesha, Sharam, meaning the essence of teachings, starts with the words Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam Tat Karmasu Anushtiyatam. This means that Vedas be chanted every day. The karmas as delineated in them be acted upon. Jnanam is the end destination. beyond time and space. That is, Jnana Marga. Before Jnana, the mind has to be focused and concentrated to one pointedness. This one pointedness of the mind can be arrived at only through bhakti, devotion to the Supreme Divinity. That is Bhakti Marga. This bhakti will not arise in a dirty mind full of desires, wants, greed, and hatred. So, Chitta Shuddhi or cleansing of the mind is a prerequisite. The cleansing of the mind happens through Nishkamya Karma or doing one's duty without looking for appreciation and returns. That is Karma Marga. As Vedas pointed out, first karma as a duty is to be performed, then the same is to be done as Nishkamya Karma, which led to cleanliness of the mind, then are graduated to bhakti, which led to pointedness of the mind, finally resulting in mindlessness. This automatically culminated in jnana, awareness, Satchit Anandam. This is the graduated process the Shankara, the student, has to undergo as advised by Adi. The sadhaka, the student, has to undergo as advised by Adi Shankara. Purva Mimamsa, which talks of the need for karma anushtana, Nayayika Matham, which emphasizes the existence of a god and so the importance of bhakti, Buddhism, which ignores the Vedas, karma anushtana, existence of God, and the need for bhakti, but throws light on dhyana vichara, Shaiva Siddhantam, which holds Shiva as the supreme, and Vaishnavam, which has Vishnu instead of Shiva, are all there in its place in Adi Shankara's Advaitam. They came up to a level and stopped there. He correlated them all and argued and fought with them in pointing out their limitations and the need for transcending their limitations towards evolving a wholesome perspective. Adi Shankara accepted the importance of Vedika karma of Mimamsakas but did not agree with their principle of no need for bhakti and no need for jnana. His view was that their karma cannot by itself give the necessary results. Karma is inanimate or jada vastu and so cannot on its own give the results. The karma phala dhata is Ishvara. The very karma has been created for the world to function in an orderly manner. Whatever your actions, it should be done as one's duty and surrendered or offered to God. Karma should be done as one's duty and surrendered or offered to God. Karma should be done as nishkamya karma, dispassionately. More than the effect of the action, this dispassionate attitude will give the greater return of chitta suddhi, that is, clarity of mind. That was his advice to Mimamsakas. To the Nyaya Shastra's experts, known as Nyayikas, his advice was in the following lines. It is not enough to prove the existence of God logically in debates. That argument of proving God's existence should become one's experience. To directly experience God is to know that there is nothing else, and so our own existence as an experiencer is null and void. This experience of God is the end Advaita Anubhava. He proved, who am I? What is truth? What is permanent? And so on. The vichara goes on continuously, leaving aside all the desires and passions. Then, like Buddha, we can also experience a state of clarity of understanding. Buddha did not talk of Ishvara or God. He also did not describe or define nirvana. Neither was he against it. For all we know, he might have had Advaita Anubhava. Having had the experience, he may not have understood the experience as Advaita Anubhava, but all of us cannot go directly to such experience unless some preconditions of maturity are met with. That is why Vedas talk about an orderly ripening through karma, nishkamya karma, bhakti, vichara, dharana, and dhyana ending in anubhava. This order is logical. Karma and bhakti give chitta shuddhi and one pointedness of mind known as ekagrata. Once this happens, that individually can proceed towards the latter steps of vichara, dharana, and dhyana like a hop, step, and jump, culminating directly in realization. As there are all sorts of people in the world, all of them cannot just arrive at the end point in one go. That is why there are as many variations to suit individual needs in the spiritual highway of karma, bhakti, and jnana marga. If you directly jump to the end process of jnana for all, except for one or two in a zillion, others cannot benefit. That is why Adi Shankara countered the Buddhist ways. As said earlier, Adi Shankara complemented and completed what had already been done by Kumarla Bhattar and Udayanacharya in putting down the Buddhist philosophy and methods. Buddhists suffered a setback by the effort of these three. Smartha Sampradaya of Sanatana Veda Dharma regained its pride of place among the common masses. What Adi Shankara elaborated upon as the purport of the Upanishads was that highest pinnacle of Advaita Anubhava is neither possible for all nor can all the people absorb and understand that experience. But one could progress on the path towards it. So, generally, the common folk were doing their duties with devotion to God. Like the Purva Mimamsakars, they did not consider that karma by itself was the be all and end all. As directed by Adi Shankara, they did their karma as an offering to God. Now, whenever we do any karma, at the beginning we make a sankalpa that the action is being done for the satisfaction of God, Parameshwara Prityartham. This sankalpa was introduced in the procedure at the behest of Adi Shankara only. This was not the practice earlier. We are not to think that karma by itself will grant the effects. The Phaladata remains to be God. That is why Acharya made us to do the sankalpa. Not only that, so as to instill the sense of oneness between Ishvara and Narayana or Krishna, what was started for Parameshwara Prityartham, meaning an action for the pleasure of Parameshwara, was ended with Krishnarpanamastu as an offering to Krishna. What was originally the religion of the followers of Veda later became the Smarta as the religion of the followers of Dharma Shastras, based on Vedas, collectively known as Smriti. They are not two different religions. Vedic religion is Smartam. The karma as per Vedas were done with the purpose of Chitta Shuddhi as an offering to God. Purva Mimamsakas went astray getting a fixation on karma that was corrected by Adi Shankara. The original old Smartha religion was regenerated and re-established to its rightful place in the life of people of this country. Similarly, in devotional approach, as per the Vedas, there was not even an iota of relative superiority or inferiority between Shiva and Vishnu. In Veda, all gods were considered to be the same Parabrahmam. In Rudram, it is said that everything is Shiva Swarupa. In Purusha Suktam, it is said that Everything is Vishnu Swarupa. Elsewhere, if Varuna is extolled as the Parabrahmam, somewhere else Agni, the god of fire, gets the pride of place, and in yet another place it will be the sun who will be the venerated. Finally, Vedas declare Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti, meaning to say that there is but one truth that is given many names. Dharma Shastra Smritis, being of the form of notes based on Vedas, also do not give a pride of place to any one god or goddess. But if you select one of them as your Ishta Devata, you are welcome to consider that god or goddess as the Parabrahmam, with the proviso that having your Ishta Devata is not a license to decry other gods. Thus, Smartas did Ishtadevata puja without ever decrying other gods. This state of affairs deteriorated when initially Karma Mimamsakars started insisting on karma as an end. Subsequently, each gave more importance to their Ishtadevata and started denigrating other gods and others who had different gods. This was the time when a Veera Shaiva or Veera Vaishnava would kill each other on sight. Thus, when both Karma Marga and Bhakti Marga had become thoroughly confused, Buddhism further created chaos by ignoring Bhakti and Karma, as though everybody could go directly onto Jnana Marga. Acharya Adi Shankara's Advent was in such troubled times when all he did was not to create a new approach but to re-establish the Vedic Smartha, Sampradaya of Sanatana Dharma. When the path of the Vedas had become muddled with stones, potholes and weeds, Acharya only cleaned it up by removing the non-essentials and not create a new approach. Accepting the Vedic route of Ishtadevata Puja, Acharya brought together followers of Gyanapatyam who were devoted to Ganapati, Kaumaram, Ganapatyam who were devoted to Ganapati, Kaumaram who venerated Lord Subramanya, Saktam who were devoted to Ambal, Shiva Bhaktas of Shaivas, Vaishnavas who had Vishnu as their Ishtadevata, and Sauram who considered the sun god as the supreme deity. Due to this action of bringing these 6 streams of devotees together, Acharya was called the Shanmada Stapaka. He did this Shanmada Stapakam so that people could be devoted to their Ishtadevata without putting down other gods and devotees of other gods. So, as before, Adityam Ambikam Vishnum, Ganantam Maheshwaram, puja of Panchatana thrived. All Vedic yagas automatically went to Agni Subramanya. So, he may not have been included in Panchayatana puja. So, the point I am making repeatedly is that Shankara Sampradayam was not anything new but re-establishment and rejuvenation of the Vedic order. So, if someone talks of Shankara Sampradaya, it is wrong. If I have used that phrase as the heading for today's talk, I beg your pardon too. Throughout his bhashyas, he has praised the tradition of Vedic methods. With great respect, he has mentioned, after a logical analysis of the veracity and suitability, that a point is acceptable because it is traditionally acceptable, thereby underlining the high esteem he had for the wisdom of the Vedic ancestors. About Jesus Christ, it is said that he came not to destroy the old religions but to complete them. Similarly, Adi Shankara's advent was to weed out the unnecessary growths and clean out the path. If something is said to be the Shankara way, he would have been the first one to object to such thinking. Even his end principle end principled stand of Advaita was established and proved through his analysis of Prasthanatraya of Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and the 10 Upanishads. Nowhere, even by mistake, has he claimed Advaita as his personal philosophy. Due to the above reason, followers of Adi Shankara did not opt for any new name or outer indications or signs. So, they continued to be known by the name of Smartas. Even before Sri Ramanujacharya and Sri Madhava, there were Vishnu Bhaktas among Smartas who had Vishnu as their Ishtadevata. There is one surprising thing here. Among Smartas, there were also some who believed in Advaitam as a principal standpoint of philosophy while simultaneously believing in their own Ishtadevata as Parabrahmam. Though they believed Adi Shankara as their guru, but did not agree on the point of not decrying other gods. There have been hardware Vaishnavas who have been Advaitins. Let me share with you a secret. There are some such people of Advaita Parampara even today existing who consider me as their guru. Their Siddhantam is Advaitam, but they will not wear the Namam on their forehead. Somehow, since they consider that the Vibhuti is connected to Shiva, they will not wear that either. Saying no to Namam and Vibhuti, they wear Gopi Chandan. There are some other Advaitins who are Vishnu Bhaktas who spot yet another variation. They wear a red vertical line in the center of their forehead and are called Kirtru Namakkarargal. They are more hardened Vaishnavas than the Iyengars. While some of the Iyengars may visit a temple of Shiva, these Advaitins would consider a visit to a Shiva temple as unthinkable. For them, I am still the venerable Acharya. Can you now see as to how it is incorrect to call me a Shaiva? I asked that Japanese professor. Similarly, there are Advaitins among Veera Shaivas too. When it comes to principles of philosophy, they accept Advaitam. When it comes to devotional path, they are averse to the idea of accepting all gods as equal. Not being able to accept the Samarasa Bhava of Adi Shankara, they continue to hold their own Shiva as the supreme god. Still, there is one important reason as to why Advaitins have been thought to be Shaivas. Ramanujacharya came after Adi Shankara in time and spread Visishtadvaitam. His principled stand was on the following lines: that Jiva can never ever become Brahman. The Jiva can and does experience the Parabrahman as the indwelling spirit. By standing apart and not by becoming one with that Parabrahman, even in the state of moksha, Brahman is not nirguna, that is, devoid of character, qualities, and traits as held by Adi Shankara. Parabrahman has guna and karya. As the indwelling spirit in each, it is antaryami as well as stand apart supreme power. These points can be applied to any god, but among the followers of Sri Ramanujacharya, such a god is only Mahavishnu, not Shiva or any other god. Thus, he made Visishtadvaitam as a theology acceptable only to one set of people for whom Mahavishnu was the Ishtadevata. Those who accepted Sri Ramanujacharya's Visishtadvaitam were very much the erstwhile Smartas. Of course, like Guru Govind Singh latter, Sri Ramanujacharya did permit some non-Brahmins into his fold. Till his time, after all, Hindu religion consisted of Smartas only. From among them, whosoever had an inclination toward Mahavishnu went to his side either for the sake of Siddhanta or for the love of Mahavishnu. After Ramanujacharya came Sri Madhvacharyas, Sri Vallabhacharya and Sri Krishna Chaitanya. In that order, Sri Madhva theorized that God is Mahavishnu and all of us are individual jivas, without even talking of God as an antaryami in each. That is Dvaitam. It is difficult to describe the theological nuances of Vallabhacharya and Sri Krishna Chaitanya without sounding too simplistic. Suffice it to say that Sri Ramanuja and Sri Madhva had Vishnu as Parabrahmam, while for Vallabha and Sri Krishna Chaitanya it was Sri Krishna. There was one Nimbarkar also among those who considered Sri Krishna as the only God. All these are evaluates from Smartha only. So the point to understand is that they went out of being Smarthas to any of these acharyas who fold, either because of their attraction for the Siddhanta or because their Ishtadevata was Vishnu or Krishna. Balance left out among Smarthas were essentially either Shiva Bhaktas or not particularly Vishnu, Krishna Bhaktas or not believers of those Siddhantas. This led to the preponderance of Shiva Bhaktas among Advaitins, Smarthas. Once the Britishers' rule formed in, while writing even simple entries in so-called official records, Smarthas, not knowing that they were believers in Smritis, started entering Shiva Matam against their names. Not only then, but now too, when they do not know why they are supposed to be Smarthas, they think of themselves as Shiva Bhaktas. Not only this, much before this, almost during Ramanujacharya's time itself, there was another Sri Kandar or Maikandar, as many started following the footsteps of Ramanujacharya. Advaitins were construed to be Shaivas. The reason was that this Maikandar started preaching almost a parallel Visishtadvaitam with a slight change in which we are to read Shiva instead of Vishnu. When it comes to the Mukti, he is a little more nearer Advaitam. In Upasana for Maikandar, Shiva is the main. The already depleted Smarthas after the Vaishnavas who had embraced Visishtadvaitam had already gone from their amidst. The remainders must have thought of themselves anyhow as Shiva Bhaktas only and may not have thought it necessary to shift their allegiance. This sect, known by the name of Shaiva Siddhantam, still exists and thrives. Tattvam or Siddhantam, or what is called the principled standpoint of view, appeals only to some intelligentsia. For the majority of people, devotion and upasana murti are more important. That is why the many of the Vishnu Bhaktas from Smarthas shifted to the sects of Sri Ramanuja, Madhva, Vallabha, Chaitanya, Nimbalkar. This is all the reason that many did not give away to Maikandar. This is how Smarthas, who were Advaitins, not fully aware of the Siddhantam, came to believe themselves to be Shaivas. If the question is as to why there is Chandramaulishwara Puja being conducted every day in the Matam, the reason for that is like this. Acharya got 5 Spatikalingas from Parameshwara himself with the instruction that their Aradhana be held non-stop every day. Out of them, Acharya kept 1 Spatikalinga each in Sringeri Sharda Peetham and Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham. Balance 3 lingas were kept in Kedarnath, Nepal Pashupatinath and Chidambaram, Nataraja temple. In all these places, daily puja is held without a break. When Kedarnath temple closes for 6 months in winter, the Spatikalingam is taken to Okimat and the daily puja continues there. For the sake of uniformity in all Shankara Mathas, Chandramaulishwara Puja is held every day. Chandramaulishwara, being another name of Shiva, Lakshmi Narasimha Murthy gave a saligramam to Acharyal. This is also included in the puja. As the Spatika Lingam is representing Shiva, the saligramam represents the Vishnu Swarupa. For him, there is no differentiating between Shiva Vishnu. As he installed the Spatika Lingam in Chidambaram, in Badrinath, he has installed Narayana and established a matam there. The place where the matam is located is known as Jyotirmat. Thus, the three places in the east, north, and west, namely Puri, Jyotirmat or Joshimat, and Dwaraka, are especially famous as Krishna Kshetras. He has not written Bhashyam for Shiva Sahasranama but did so for Vishnu Sahasranama. Though there is Shiva Gita and Devi Gita in Puranas, he has written the Bhashyam only for Bhagavad Gita, which Sri Krishna Bhagavan instructed to Arjuna. Not looking at these evidences, he is wrongly thought to be a Shaiva. The daily puja held in the matam is not only Shiva Puja but Panchayatana Puja as explained earlier. Acharya is an avatara of both Shiva and Uma. It is Uma Maheshwara who gave the 5 Spatikalingas in Kailasha to Acharya. So in the daily ritual, Ishvara and Ambal are kept as the central deities, in which is also included Vishnu as Lakshmi Narayana and Ganapati and Surya the sun. Like Shivaratri and Pradosha Puja, Navratri, Ramnavami, Gokulashtami and Nrsimha Jayanti are also held with equal importance in the matam. While sending Sri Mukham, letterhead of the matam, conveying or blessings for the conduct of any function or celebrations anywhere, do you know as to what our official wordings are? It says Kriyatre Narayana Smriti, meaning thereby that for the successful conduct of the function, we are devotedly remembering Narayana. We do not say that we are remembering Shiva. When you all do namaskaram to me, what do I say? I say Narayana, Narayana. All Shankaracharyas do that. This is an arrangement made by Adi Shankara. Narayana is remembered because he is the Jagat Paripalana Karta. That is why for all good things to happen in this world, Narayana is to be remembered as directed by Adi Shankara. For so long, I have explained as to how Advaitins are mistakenly identified as Shaivas. Contrary to this, there is another misconception too. There are also some who claim that Adi Shankara was a devotee of only Vishnu. They quote that this Smarana of Narayana and the fact that other than Prasthanatraya, Adi Shankara wrote the Bhashyam for Vishnu Sahasranamam as evidence of their viewpoint. In addition, they referred to the fact that Adi Shankara has often called the Saguna Brahmam Ishvara as Narayana only, but to think of Adi Shankara as Shaiva or Vaishnava or Sakta is to qualify or limit him. But he is not the devotee of any one god only, but all the gods as one. The reason why he has referred to the Saguna aspect of God as Narayana is because when the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara is thought of, it is Vishnu who is the functional executive, something like CEO. He is Jagat Palana, Rakshaka, Acharya is simultaneously a Ganapatya, Shaiva, Sakta, Vaishnava, Kaumara and Saura too. All Smarthas should be so. The ideal Smartha to be emulated in Muttaswami Dikshadhar. He has described the Parabrahma Swarupa on a galaxy of divine forms as varied as Ayyanar, Mariamman, the Navagrahas or planets, in all forms of God. We look at the aspect of oneness. We should not have preferences between them, but think of them as unity in diversity. From very old times, there have been Veera Vaishnavas and Veera Shaivas within Advaitins. who were hardcore fanatics, ready to kill each other on sight. That is completely contrary to Acharya's view, point, and directions. Like Appaya Dikshadhar, among Advaitins, was a devotee of Shamba Parameshwara. There was Leela Sukar as a Parama Bhagavata Krishna Bhakta. Without putting down other gods, we can completely melt in devotion of our own Ishtadevata. This principle of not decrying other or others' God is at the heart of what is Smarta, Vedic religion. If you put down other gods and praise your own, such action has no approval in Vedas. By this test, we Smartas, who are followers of Adi Shankara, are true followers of complete Vedic religion of Sanatana Dharma. I am not saying so. If I say so, it will be construed as parochial that I am praising the tradition of my own type of believers of Advaita. So, this is not my opinion. Out of the greats of the past, I will quote three stalwarts on this. Dvaitins, Advaitins, and Vishishtadvaitins all evolve out of Smartas as believers and followers of Vedas and Smritis. So let us go back to Vyasa Maharshi, who is the grand old man who organized the Vedas into Rik, Yajur, Sama, and Atharvana, as well as wrote the 18 Puranas and the Itihasa of Mahabharata containing Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu and Shiva Sahasranamams. He mentions through Bhishma Pitamaha talking about the 5 religions of Yor, Sankhya Yoga, Pancharatram, Veda, Pasupadam, Tatha. Among them, Veda, he says, is the Vedamatam, later known as Smarta. This includes devotion to God and procedures and rituals evolved for that. Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana, intuitive and intellectual analysis of principles and Siddhanta, known as Sankhya. All these are included in the revived Smarta Sampradaya of Adi Shankara. In his works such as Shivananda Lahari, Saundari Lahari, and Shatpadi on Vishnu, our Acharya has shown as to how he has approved and accepted latter-day Siddhantas of Dvaitam and Visishtadvaitam as applicable in certain stages of a sadhaka's evolution. In Yoga Taravali, he has packed Patanjali's finer and very subtle principles of yoga. In his Bhashyams, all the 24 principles of Sankhya have been referred. Thus, we observe that our Acharya has fully absorbed the finer aspects of Sankhya, Yoga, and Veda out of the 5 listed by Vyasa. That leaves Pancharatram and Pasupadam. Pancharatram recognizes Vishnu as the only God, and Pasupadam insists that only Shiva is the Pashupati. Rest of all gods are degraded into subservient roles. That is why Vyasa seemingly mentioned them separately as other than Veda. Sankhya by itself is only cerebral exercise devoid of karma and bhakti, with no chance for Anubhava Jnana. Thus, it is comparable to the latter day religions such as Buddhism. Though yoga is a combination of physical, mental, and spiritual exercises with emphasis on strict discipline, it is incomplete due to lack of karma, upasana, and not being integrated with approach to Paramatma Tattva. Thus, we see that all the other 4 religions of Yor, that is Pasupadam, Pancharatram, Sankyam, and Yoga, remain in some way incomplete or unacceptable. Veda is the complete one which includes aspects of all the other 5. There was another being of immense power in Tattva Jnana who was a Gandharva born as a human being by Ambal's wish, became a Shiva Bhakta and attained to Kailasha. He was known as Pushpadantar. He has written a poem, Shiva Mahima Stotram, meaning poem describing the greatness of Shiva. This shlokam is popular throughout North India. Go slightly north of Pune and you can find no Shiva Bhakta not knowing this stotram. In South India, Tirupavai, Tiruvambavai, Vinayakar Agaval have not got that much wider acceptance as the Shiva Mahima Stotram in the north. In that, he also makes a mention of Trayi Sakhyam Yoga Pashupati Matham Vaishnava Mithi. Trayi stands for the Vedic religion. Then Sankyam and Yoga Pashupati Matham is the one which holds Shiva as the Supreme Almighty and all other gods as Ninkampops. Vaishnavam is another name for Pancharatram, which extols Vishnu and dismisses all other gods as not worthy of consideration. Both Vyasa and Pushpadantar have accepted these 5 religions and compared them with 5 rivers which finally end in the same ocean. They have accepted even those religions which claim their own god only as the Parabrahman. Still, since the mentality is not suitable to the Vedic approach, they have been separately mentioned. It is interesting to note that Pushpadantar himself is very devoted to Shiva but does not hate other gods or others' views. He is mentioning that all these 5 religions are like 5 rivers which drain into the same ocean of Parabrahman or Parameshwara. Despite being a Shiva Bhakta, he does not say that the Pasupadam is a Vedic Dharmam. Vedic Dharmam is one which accepts all and does not discard any. That is why it is different from Vedam. The third is a poet laureate. Vyasa's words have very high value for being the original centrist who recognized and wrote all the Vedas, Puranas and Mahabharata. Pushpadantar's words similarly have very high value because despite being a devotee of Shiva, he calls the Shiva only Pasupadam as different from Veda, not joining any religious side, not praising or decrying any god. The poet's words too have a very high value. I am talking about Sri Harshar, who wrote Naishadham, the story of Nala Maharaja. In a situation of high drama of literary merit, he mentions these 5 religions while giving a comparative illustration. Damayanti's Swayamvaram is taking place. Swayamvaram is an age-old procedure followed by royal families in which a king interested in marrying off his daughter enables the princess to exercise her choice and select a suitable match from among an assembled lot of royal guests. Damayanti is already in love with Nala, but Indra, Varuna, Agni and Yama too are in the fray, wanting Damayanti to become their wife. Being gods, they know very well that Damayanti's heart is already set on Nala. So each one of the aspirants have come exactly dressed up as Nala. So in the assembly of princes lined up, there are 5 exactly similar looking persons masquerading as Nala. How is Damayanti going to make the right choice? Here the poet Harsha says, as among 5 different religions, people find it difficult to identify the comparatively more truthful Advaitam. From among 5 Nalas, Damayanti is in a quandary to identify the true Nala. He says, Panchama Koti Matre Madanam Advaita Tattva Iva Satya Tarepi Loka. Taram means a comparative value. The poet does not say that the other 4 religions are wrong, like Vyasa and Pashupadanta. Harsha also accepts the other religions as true religions. Comparatively, he says that in truth, Advaitam is higher. So, Satya Tara Api Advaita. The poet says Acharya has classified truth into 3 categories as truth, untruth and a lie. Referred to preceding paras 13 to 22. Similarly, Sri Harsha has rated the religions. He calls Advaita as Uttama Satyam and the other 4 as Sadharana Satyam. In Mahabharata, in the words of Bhishma, Advaitam is not mentioned. It is Veda there. Still, if you differentiate between gods and claim greatness exclusively for your own, it is not Vedamatam. In the message there, in Pushpadanta's words too, the same meaning is conveyed. Though there too, Veda is called Trayi and not Advaitam. Sri Harsha is of the time period much later when, after Adi Shankara, Ramanujacharya and Madhvar had expanded their philosophies of Visishtadvaitam and Dvaitam. So Harsha, instead of Vedamatam, uses the word Advaitam itself. Recapitulate. Though on the one hand a wrong notion was being formed that Advaitins are Shaivas after Ramanujacharya and Madhvar had given their Siddhantas contrary to Advaitam, the impression that Veda Matam means Advaitam also took roots in the public consciousness. This is proved by the fact that the old name of Smartha continued to be applied only for Advaitins. Smartha means only the one who follows Vedas and Smritis and not Advaitins or followers of Shankara, as we have seen before. Similarly, the common names of Sharma and Shastri came to be continued to be used only by Smarthas much before Shankara's time. Brahmins used to be known by the general name of Sharma and Kshatriyas by the name Varma or Verma. Ravi Verma, known for his famous paintings, must have been a Kshatriya. When a Brahmin boy is given Upanayanam or the sacred thread, we ask, "What's Sharman?" And the answer is given so and so Sharman. That way, Iyengar and Madhva are also Sharma only, the generic name for all Brahmins. Now it has come to mean as Advaitin, who is also the complete Vedic follower who accepts all gods. Shastri similarly is one who abides by Veda Dharma Shastras. This name is also being used by Advaitin Smartha only. There may be a rare Madhva or Vaishnava Shastri or Sharma. If someone belongs to Shaiva Siddhanta of Sri Meikandar or Visishtadvaita Siddhanta of Sri Ramanujacharya or Dvaita Siddhanta of Sri Madhvar, it is not enough to be a believer of those principles and being born in such a family only. I am not saying this. Those Acharyas say this. It is not enough to be born as an Iyengar, neither enough to be a firm believer of Visishtadvaitam. Such a person has to get inscribed on his body Shankha Chakra signs by a process similar to tattooing, known as Samsrayanam, meaning equally surrendering, and get Mantra Upadesham. Then only a person becomes a Visishtadvaitin. In the case of Madhvas, whenever they meet their Acharyal, they have to have Panchamudra Dharanam. They also have to have Mantra Upadesham. For a Shaiva, there is no compulsion to have a Mudra Dharanam of Shula and Rishabha, but they have to have Panchachara Upadesham known as Diksha, which in a Tamil variation of the Sanskrit and word Diksha. This is as ordained by their respective Acharyas only. Traditionally, all of them are, however, adherents of Vedas and Shastras, and so are all Smarthas only. This fact is not known to many. Say there is a Hindu. He converts to Christianity. How does he convert? The Christian father has to baptize him to convert him. If not, he is still a Hindu only. Is it not so? Similarly, only after a Shiva Diksha or Samsrayanam or Mudra Dharanam, he can convert to Shaiva Siddhanta or Sri Vaishnavam or Madhva's fold. When a Hindu converts to Christianity, he leaves the Veda Shastras. But the one going to Siddhantams other than Advaita goes to them keeping his belief in Vedas and Shastras intact, because those Acharyas also continue their belief in Vedas and Smritis as Pramanam, but ask for certain additional functions to be followed, only after which the convertee becomes a Shaiva or Vaishnava or Madhva. Otherwise, he continues to be a Smartha only. Am I saying this so as to gain some majority or some increase in the number of Advaitins? No. If Adi Shankara had laid some new or additional conditions or rituals to be observed, then what I say can be wrong. But he did not say anything like that. He did not create a new sect of Advaita followers. He did not lay down any new samskaras. So all Hindus have not adopted any fresh samskaras or all smartas only as before. This Diksha, Mudradharanam and Samsrayanam are not mentioned in Vedas or Smritis. In Vedas, there is only Yagyopavitam or Upanayanam for Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, as per which they have to be given Gayatri Mantra Upadesha. For the fourth Varna, that requirement of Gayatri Mantra is also not there. They are all still accepted as belonging to Hindu religion. Acharyal did not create any new methodology. Smartas do not have to feel bad that they do not have any new samskaras. What is said in Vedas is enough for us, should be how they should feel. Ramachandra Murthy and Krishna Paramatma are not known to have taken a Dikshay or given Mudra Dharanam or Samsrayanam as evidenced in Ramayanam or Bhagavatam. If the Siddhantis say that they are Avatara Purushas and so do not need such things, that will be an incorrect answer, because the evidence as borne by the Puranas and Itihasa are something else. Because in Ramayana it says that Rama did Veda Adhyayana, Srimad Valmiki Ramayanam, Balakandam 18 Sargam, Vedadhyayane Ratha. Adhyayanam can be done only after the boy has been given Upanayanam. So we can make out that they had been given Yagyopavitam. Similarly in Bhagavatam, when Vasudeva and Devaki were released from jail, Krishna Paramatma was given Upanayanam. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Skandam, 45th Sargam. Then Krishna, like any other boy, did Gurukulavasam in Guru Sandipani's ashrama and did Veda Adhyayana. Why should Avatara Purushas be given Upanayanam and go through Veda Adhyayanam? Can't they know all the Shastras just by being all-knowing Sarvagna that they are? Why should Rama do Astra and Shastra Abhyasa under Vishwamitra and learn Bala and Atibala mantras? So, we can make out that despite being Avatara Purushas, they behaved only as any common human being, thereby showing us the way. So Adi Shankara Acharyal decided that what these Avatara Purushas did in their life is enough for us as followers. Nothing more is required. People of other sampradayas, though accepting Veda Shastras, because of some of these additional samskaras, had to give up many of the things that do not differentiate between Shiva and Vishnu. Though some new things are added, some old ones get ignored. We can rest content that for us no additions and subtractions are required to what is delineated in Vedas and Shastras. Adi Shankara did not add anything new. He removed the aberrations and restored and refurbished Veda Dharma Shastras and reiterated their teachings. There are many Puranas and Itihasa to affirm that Adi Shankara is Parameshwara Avatara. In them, in Karma Purana, it predicts that Ishvara himself is coming down as an avatara to hedge the flow of adharma. It says, Karishyanti avataram swam shankaro nilo hita srauta smartha pratishtartam bhaktanam hita kamyaya. Srauta means followers of Veda. Smartha, as we know already, adherents of Dharma Shastras. So, Srauta Smartha Pratishtartham would mean so as to re-establish Veda Dharma Shastras Bhaktanam hita kamyaya would mean for the love of the devotees. Karishyat vatram swam shankaro Nila Lohita, meaning that the blue-eyed Shankara himself will come down in human form. It is interesting to note that though nowadays the moment his name is mentioned, we think of Advaitam and Shanmadasthapanam, as his contributions, Karma Puranam is talking about re-establishment of Srauta Smartha traditions. Similarly, in the shloka for Acharya Vandanam, it is said Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Here too, there is no mention of Advaitam and Shanmadam, but describes him as the abode of Shruti, Vedas and Smriti, Dharma Shastras and Puranas. What is said in the Vedas is made out as do's and don'ts, rules and regulations in Smriti. The same is given out as so many stories in Puranas. Acharya is like a temple for all these three aspects of the angels Hindu tradition, ageless Hindu tradition. The moment we say Vedamatam and Smartha Sampradayam, it means the Advaitam which conveys the undifferentiated oneness of Jiva and Brahman. As a part of this Advaitam is the idea of equal veneration for all forms of God, that is, the concept of daily puja to all gods, Shan Madasthapana, Panchayatana Puja. That is why the shloka and the Karma Purana do not talk separately of Advaitam and Shanmadam. Once we have accepted that Jiva and Brahman are one, it is automatically implied that all gods are one. As Shanmadam and Panchayatana Puja are part and parcel of Advaitam, Advaitam itself is a part and parcel of Smartha traditions, which is inherent in Vedas and Smritis. So, Vedika Matam is Advaita Sampradayam. Advaitam is Vedic. That is why Sri Harsha in Naishada has used the word Advaitam in place of Vedam. So all those who may belong to Dvaitam, Visishtadvaitam, Shaivam, but have not yet done the special samskara as per their Acharyal are all still Smartas only. Even after they have done the special samskara as required by their Acharyas, they still continue to be worthy of Adi Shankara's blessings, since he accepts all these variations in the spiritual development of every sadhaka. Acharyal's own guru, that is Gaudapada, has written Mandokya Upanishad Karikai. Karikai is a type of commentary. In Tamil too, for the original text of Yapurungalam, there is a Yapparungala Karikai. In Mandokya Upanishad Karikai, Gaudapadar says many Siddhantas are mutually differing and so mutually seemingly conflicting with each other. But our Advaitam is not contrary to any Siddhanta or principled standpoint of view. This non-antagonistic attitude, this sense of oneness, this samarasam is Adi Shankara Acharyal's way. We should accept Vedas and Smritis of Dharma Shastras. Even if we are differing in procedures and rituals, we should remain as children of one God, whatever name we may prefer to call him by. Let him bless us to be so. This brings to an end the talk on Shankara Sampradayam. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.